Good morning, everybody. We'll kick off. So great to be here at SSP this year. Wasn't quite sure at 9 o'clock in Seattle whether I was going to be here or dialing in this morning, so it is nice to be in front of everybody. I'm Andrew Smith, and I'm the Product and Marketing Director from the Charlesworth Group. We'll be talking about author experience in China, localizing for success today. So I just wanted to provide a brief overview of who we are. So Charlesworth joined Anago as of the end of last year. So we are now Anago Charlesworth, a publishing solutions company that can support the STM publishers across a number of different areas. We broadly kind of break down into three categories. So we have some fantastic AI tools and technology that supports the pre-submission and copy editing workflow. We're also obviously well known for our author services through the Anago brands and through the Charlesworth brands. If you're interested in either of those, the teams are around all week and we have a stand as well. We'd be more than happy to talk to you about AI. But today I'm going to focus on the part of the business that I look after, which is our China market services. So in terms of Charlesworth China, it would have been great for one of the team to come and join me this year, but sadly that's again not been possible. But I did just want to introduce you to who our team are and really our expertise in the market. So ultimately, we have an office in Beijing and we look at the China market through three different verticals. We have our author services side where we support thousands of researchers each year through paper editing and publication support. And through Kelly Zhang's area, we get close to researchers in terms of the pain points, the workflows, and we talk to researchers on a weekly basis. Through our rights representation side, we have relationships with over 500 libraries. We have a national sales team. So we're out in the market, we're speaking to libraries, organizations within China, and we have really that B2B presence. And then the side of the business that we work with most of you on is through our China market agency, which is led by Vivian Wang. We represent 18 publishers for marketing services within China. And that really ranges from running WeChat accounts through running whole marketing strategies through to different consulting projects that we do. We have a real depth and broad knowledge of the market. We've been in China for 20 years. So that really gives us a very deep insight into the market, but also some fantastic local relationships. We have very close relationships with the Chinese Academy of Science, NSTL, CNKI, a number of the local publishers. We also have a very good understanding of local regulation and technology, so we can really help STM publishers to walk through some of the challenges of operating in the market. As I mentioned, we work with around about 18 publishers for marketing services, and we work with 55 plus around our sales representation. So we have a broad spectrum of clients that we work with within China. So what I wanted to talk to you today about was the market services that we offer around localization and the importance of localizing for the market within China. And really the problems we set out to solve for you in terms of the China market are how you can interact through the very different ecosystem that exists. So you have issues around the firewall. Also in China, you have WeChat, which is a super app within the market. It's its own platform. If you've been to China, you'll know that pretty much everything happens and takes place within WeChat. So we really look out to kind of solve the problems around technology, the different social platforms that exist, and the challenges around integrating the technology outside of China and through the firewall. At the same time, we also work very closely with local publishers on the ground. And those local publishers have invested heavily in the last 2 to 3 years. So I was in China a few weeks ago and had demos from a number of the different tech vendors. Is investment in submission systems, which are built on local UX practices, are designed to operate with WeChat already. And these have been rolled out to local publishers within China. So as STM publishers internationally, we need to look at the services that are available and are coming on stream and make sure that in terms of your market share, you're not falling behind. So in terms of what we mean by localization, I've kind of broken it down to these 4 broad areas where we tend to support clients. At the moment, a lot of our work has been focused around WeChat marketing, whether through that's consulting right through to running whole strategies and WeChat accounts for publishers. We tend to get involved a lot around payments and payment workflows. In China, WeChat Pay, Alipay are the two predominant methods of payments. You also have local invoicing and regulation. We often support publishers around this and can help in terms of integrating your products into local payments. When I talk to other marketers on the ground, one of the big differences within the e-commerce workflow is also customer service. The role of customer service, the importance of customer service through the e-commerce journey is different, and it's very important. So we have a dedicated customer service team within our office that supports both our author customers, but it also works for a number of publishers in terms of providing that localized customer service, whether that's via WeChat or Beidou Bridge or other methods on the ground. And then traditionally and historically, we've done a lot around websites and SEO. So from localizing websites, creating local websites, local landing pages, our team have the knowledge and the ability there. But it's not just about the channels. It's also about the three areas here. So where do we work with clients? Number one, we spend a lot of time working with them around their brand. So what's their brand perception in China? What do you want your brand to be within China? We have tools, we have our team that can put together a deep insight into brand performance, how you benchmark against your competitors, what local authors think about your brands, and we can put that into a digestible format that can help you then create an actionable report and strategy. Through our author services side, we support a lot with language translation and design, so we can localize websites, we can localize articles and content, not just through translation, but also through context, looking at how we create something that's social within China and bringing in local designers so that it works in the local market. And one of the other areas our team can advise on is cultural context. So when we look at our own campaigns, for our author services side, the number one day that we will sell editing products will be on November 11th. Now that's Singles Day within China. It's also a huge e-commerce holiday similar to Black Friday in the US. So if we're working with e-commerce businesses, we will look at how we can support you in terms of building that campaign, really targeting that day and then delivering the results. Now, before I go on to talk a little bit about some of the organizations that we work with, I just want to talk about some of our B2C experience. So everything that we do is backed by our own business within China. We provide high quality editing solutions direct to researchers through our Charlesworth Author Services brand. And this is a 7-figure business that's delivered through our local team, through direct marketing within the market and through our own customer service side. And that kind of breaks down into 3 particular areas. We spend a lot of work investing in brand marketing and content. We work with authors across China around influence marketing, and then we spent the highest part of our budget around search engine marketing. Now, last year, I talked a little bit more about this in terms of how we can break this down into an author journey, the key touch points, the differences between the author journey in China and elsewhere, and how we created a model for a publisher to really take this and have success around article submission. This time, I want to focus a little bit more around what we've created around the localization part. But certainly, if you're interested in the B2C e-commerce journey, how we can take this and build that out for you, then certainly we can advise on that. So I wanted to move and just kind of talk through some of the work that we've done for our customers on the ground. And I wanted to start just tell you a little bit about TNF, which is an organization we worked with for the last 2 years in China. So Taylor and Francis approached us a couple of years ago to look at WeChat and to look at what more they could do in terms of increasing their performance on WeChat. We did a piece of consultation with them to look at their aims and objectives, what they wanted to achieve in the market. And then we broke that down into several different verticals around content, around brand, and also technology. And one of the areas that they wanted to look at was how they could provide their authors with notifications in Chinese. So TNF have their own submission layer for their article submissions. And what we helped them to create was an experience within WeChat where any of their authors to the 1800 journals on their submission system could receive notifications through WeChat about the status of their article submission. For TNF, we did this by building a mini program, which is essentially an app within WeChat. So WeChat is in itself an environment. It's a gated environment. There are somewhere about 9 million different mini programs. And we created a mini program that attached to their WeChat account. Now, the power of this for authors is if I'm a TNF author, I can quickly post-submission set up notifications, and rather than having to check my email, rather than having to log into the submission portal, I can receive everything through to my phone on WeChat. So for any TNF journal, I know at each step of the journey where that submission is. The benefits for TNF are also their authors are now pushed towards their WeChat account. So if I'm an author, I'm using the mini program, but I'm also likely to become a follower of their account. So therefore I can be remarketed to, I can be communicated with in the future. So this broke down into a few different components, which was an API integration with TNF through our gateway products. The gateway is an integration module between China and systems around the world. So we can integrate a submission system, a platform, and we can send any notifications back through our gateway, back through to WeChat. And that's done in a way that's compliant with GDPR, with PIPL, data legislation in China, and it also fulfills any obligations around data privacy and data security. And we've worked very closely with various different architects on that product. For TNF, we then created a front end, which was branded for them, and it's completely configurable in terms of how they want it to look and how you can update that in the future. And then for their authors, they can get those notifications that are set up in Chinese. So every author that submits can get those milestone messages through. The mini program looks a little bit like that. And from here, we can add additional content, we can add additional menus. As we go forward, we can continue to iterate this and improve it. And as I said, the benefits for TNF authors were localized author experience, but that also created a high opt-in rate for their authors that are submitting to their journals. And that in itself generated WeChat followers for them to then market to. We also work with Dove Medical Press, which is a TNF company, and we took a slightly different approach for Dove. So with Dove, we manage the end-to-end side of their marketing within China. We provide them with numerous different services from search engine marketing through to content creation. But really at the center of what we do is to promote their content via short video. So their authors are encouraged to submit short video abstracts, which we can then add Chinese translations on if necessary, or they're often usually in Chinese, and we can add these into a mini program. This is a CMS similar to the one that I've shown, and you can then have a mini program of all these article video abstracts, which we can then create content about. We push out in terms of all the different campaigns that we do for them. We also work a lot with the authors that submit these videos. So the power of the marketing here is actually around getting the author to share what they've been doing, to share those video abstracts. And one of the activities that we have with them is around a video award. So every year we encourage users to vote on the video within the mini program. And we tend to find that authors really get involved in terms of sharing their own videos, promoting themselves, promoting their work. That creates a huge amount of interest within the videos, within the mini program. And it's become a really big part of Dove's marketing strategy within China. So in terms of what we offer, the mini program is a white label product. So we offer notifications, it can be used as an author marketing portal, it can host video content, and it's fully customizable for every publisher. So we can build the mini program to match your brand, we can create content for you, and through the CMS backend, it's easy to build, easy to maintain. It can be maintained by a local team, or it can be maintained by the Charlesworth team. It's also fully compliant with all local regulations. The next project we're working on with a customer client is really to look at the next steps here. So what we're able to do with a number of customers now is provide messaging within China through localized messaging in WeChat. But we wanted to go a step further than that. And one of the workshops we ran at the start of the year, we talked a lot about the post-publication journey. So we already work with authors around content that we create for the publisher WeChat account and then is shared via the author. And that has a huge amount of traction. But from the workshop we ran, we wanted to start to look at how we could automate that and actually really empower the author to share their content. So what we've created is an extension for the mini program, which allows an author to receive a notification when their article is published, but then to create a card which they can fully customize, they can design, they can add their own images on it, and they can then share it via their Moments feed. Now, Moments is like a story. It's basically a feed which you can follow all your friends, your colleagues within WeChat. And what we've created is an app whereby you can receive your article, you can then create this card, and you can then share it out. So if you see here, this is in our sandbox testing environment at the moment. You can basically create this marketing card and then push it back out to your Moments feed. And we believe this is going to be really powerful because authors will then be able to share and create their own content. And we know from the work we've done already through content creation that this has a huge impact. So we're looking to really ramp this up. We have one customer that we're going to be rolling this out to in the next few weeks, but we think this will be game changing in terms of their marketing operation. So just to kind of finish out, I wanted to identify a couple of other case studies where we've worked with clients on different problems. We're currently working with Site AI on e-commerce. So Site approached us with a problem we get a lot, which is that they are having a lot of interest from customers within China to the Site AI product. But obviously they can't accept Chinese payments. They can't issue a local invoice. It's difficult for customers within China to purchase the product. So therefore, we've created a solution where we've integrated it into our own e-commerce websites. We partnered with CPIEC on a gateway payment solution and local invoicing solution. And this means we can offer this to authors in RMB. It's fully localized and you get the invoice at the end of it. But then at the end of each month, we can then remit the funds back to site in US dollars, which is something that CPIEC is licensed and able to support us with. This went live a few weeks ago, so we've had our first full-month activity here, and we're starting to ramp up in terms of the work that we can do. So we've integrated it into our website, we've integrated it into our marketing activities, and we're starting to roll out more additional digital marketing. We're now working with Site in terms of the traffic level we're getting through, the conversion rate we're getting through to this, and how we can kind of start to optimize that. And through the payments workflow that we put in place, we can now offer other third-party tools from publishers or from publishing solutions companies in China through this process. And the third area I wanted to highlight was some of the work we've done on consulting. So we talked a lot about localization, but one of the questions we get a lot is actually around strategy. Where do you start? Where should we begin? Where should we put our marketing investments? And we've been working with a couple of large clients around just that, around China strategy. Now, unfortunately, this client wants to remain anonymous, but they were happy for me to share the study that we did for them. So they asked us to do a full China market scan, really to understand the opportunities in the market for them and to identify strategic partnerships that they wanted to pursue. So we looked at this from a two-part challenge. The first was around their current brand. We used our social listening tools. We used our team on the ground to create a full report around where their brand was at the moment, what their customers were saying about them, and create something that was actionable and understandable for the client. But then we went further than that. We created a report based on 21 interviews we did with senior leaders across libraries and local publishing houses within China. So through our consulting arm, we're able to set up those interviews. We're able to create a script with the client and then create a meaningful report from those interviews. I started doing qualitative research back in 6 years ago in China, and it's certainly not easy to get the recruitment of the key people, and certainly to actually do the interviews and get a really meaningful result is difficult. But what we managed to do through our relationships in China is build a model where we can recruit interview subjects, and we've got the skills within house to create the scripts, to work with the client, and then to execute those interviews to create a really meaningful and deep report. And that's what we've done for this particular client. And from that, we now have two areas or two key strategic partners that we've identified. We opened conversations with them a few weeks ago, and we're now working through with the client and the partners in terms of signing those partners for that particular client. Okay, oh, thank you very much. I'm happy to take any questions. Or has anybody submitted anything on the app? So we did have one question within the app, which was top 3 tips in terms of entering the market. So I'll certainly answer that one to begin with. So in terms of the 3 areas that I would focus on first will be to think about your brand and certainly do a market scan around brand to actually understand your base, where you are, where you need to improve, and most importantly, what your customers are saying about you. Secondly, a local presence in some way is going to be absolutely necessary. So whether that's using an agency like us, we have people on the ground who understand the market and have the relationships. And then the third point would really be around the localization. We know from experience that providing content in English just doesn't work in the market. It needs to be in Chinese, it needs to be localized, and it needs to be targeted at the particular audience or the context that you're looking for. So in terms of top 3, those are certainly the 3 that I would be aiming for.
So are you working strictly with foreign publishers or the Chinese market, or are you working with global?
So both. So we provide marketing support for publishers within China. So we work currently with Tsinghua University Press, Cell Research, and we're also we have another 2 relationships that we're likely to close in the next couple of weeks.
Then are you encountering any sort of, I know I'm sure the government's monitoring what you're putting out there, so have you encountered any difficulties as far as censorship or in flag in some way?
So, I mean, our team certainly advises on the ground in terms of everything that we do. Obviously, if we're providing marketing services in China, everything is regulated. So if you want to set up a WeChat account, obviously that requires a number of steps to take place. We find the most heavily regulated area is Beidou. So they have multiple levels of regulation all the way around to the keywords. The back end of Beidou is always interesting because you have a traffic light system of keywords that you're allowed and not allowed. So it flashes up red if you're trying to use a keyword that you're not allowed to use. We generally find with STM publishing that we don't encounter those particular problems, as what we tend to be doing is talking about scientific research and targeting either libraries or authors. So that doesn't tend to take us into controversial areas. Publishing itself is regulated in China, and the conversation that we often have is around the nature of what a publisher does in China. For someone like Tencent, academic publisher means an academic publisher in China that requires a license, whereas international publishers are actually part of a different category. So we do, I've advised a number of different organizations around how to operate through those different marketing platforms. But to your comment on censorship, we don't tend to encounter that. Obviously, maps are probably the most controversial, where sometimes we've had to feed back to a client around use of maps, but that's really about it. Tony. So, I mean, we work with publishers at all different sizes. So we can provide consultancy to the largest publishers who have operations in China, and we're used to working with them directly. We work with smaller publishers who really have no operation in China, no experience. So for them, we can provide that experience, and we can provide the full set of services. So we can help with content creation. We can set up a WeChat account. We can do all the basics that would need to be done. So it really doesn't matter. We can help any particular organization, whatever part of the journey they're on in terms of engaging with China. Yeah, absolutely. So we provide on one side a full author marketing strategy for a couple of publishers. So obviously that's resource intensive, and we run that across multiple different channels. There's a lot of content creation, and we work with 2 or 3 of their marketing team based in the US and one of them based in China. Or for other publishers, really, we work with organizations that have got very little in terms of marketing, maybe just the one person based in the UK and the US, in which case we will agree the strategy with them, we'll agree what we're doing, and then we will identify the content, we'll work with them on content creation, we'll take all the heavy loading off them, and that they can then just have final sign off on everything that we do. Yes. Yeah, so the majority of our customers are UK and US. So in terms of the organizations that I've talked about, we work with 18 publishers for marketing. They are all UK, US or Swiss. On top of that, we then work with clients within China, but it's the international business is the bigger part of it. And on top of the marketing, we also represent 55 publishers, of which the majority are American, for rights sales within China. No, what we find with the larger organizations is they'll have tend to got a very good competence in one area. So it will tend to be library sales. They have the sales and marketing function in place. They know exactly what they're doing. But if we're looking at open access author acquisition, they don't have the skills in place within their China office to deliver that. So that's where we would tend to partner with that publisher to provide those skills in China. We may be supported by their local office, or we may report directly into the US or UK office on that activity. Excellent. So got 1 minute left. If there's another question. Yeah, so we provide different services, from just a health check through to providing everything really. Ultimately, if you want to succeed in China, you're going to need Chinese language content. You're also going to want to look at the speed of your website. Now, basing it in China is better, although not strictly necessary. I've got a client where we put the website into Hong Kong, so we got a really good speed running across the Chinese mainland. And then we provided translation, and we set up the website based on Beidou principles. And then from our Beijing office, we monitor that website in terms of how it's performing, how we can improve it. Beidou is an interesting one because organic search is right at the bottom. So whereas Google has kind of 3 or 4 paid ads, with Beidou, the paid ads are actually massive. They take up the majority of the page. So often we would also look to do Beidou paid advertising around your brand, because even if you're coming up top in organic, you're still going to be just below the fold on a normal laptop screen. But we do a number of things. I mean, I like SEO because we always find some interesting challenges. I've seen some beautifully created Chinese landing pages that have got an English language tag within them, so we can often kind of ferret out technical problems or provide kind of advice on how to improve them, all the way from translation through to the technical aspects of it. Okay. Oh, I think we've just hit time. So